Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. There'll be two videos today. I'll be doing a year in review and shop updates for the year, including some policies and procedures later today. But I had a convenient situation. So I mentioned yesterday Drew's bike, I had to put a different motor in. Just for time's sake, I can fix this one probably easily. It does still smoke. I think that's just the turbo itself because it seems like the oil's coming from the turbo. I was told to check if this is a comp. It's a TD rack. It's China turbo, so it doesn't really surprise me. I didn't realize RCC sold Chinese turbos. Anyway, wanted to show a comparison motor to motor. So let's see here. We'll show you down here easier. So if you look, let's make these colors a little more dramatically different. We'll do lime green there for that horsepower. And like yellow for the torque. Alright, so down here you're gonna see we really didn't have any huge torque difference. So the torque before was blue versus this one that's yellow. You're gonna see we got a little bit more torque below 4,000. That's that compression difference. That's what you're gonna feel just tootling around on the street. But then I carry the torque and horsepower much further and much higher because of the cams. So this bike now has dual intake cams set out at 110, 110 versus before, which was stock cams at stock angles, which moved everything back. So basically we extended the rev range, the power range out, and just moved everything out about, let's see, where do we cross? 200 horsepower at 7,000 versus 200 horsepower at 6,000. So everything moved out about 1,000 RPM. So that's the big difference when you do cams. They don't gain you a lot of power. They move the power around. They do gain when you have the supporting mods, but more or less the cam angles themselves, because these are basically stock cams, just move it. Now we did finally crack the 400, 404, so that's the last power pull we're going to do on this bike. The rest of it will all be done with just a laptop. I'm not going to dyno any of it. I'm not going to log it. I'll just run through a few different boost levels, which I've already done on the E85. I'll finish up the last bits of drivability when Motorhead gets here tomorrow, and then we'll switch over to gasoline and do gasoline up to probably 12, 14 pounds. Somewhere in that neighborhood. That's a little spicy in my opinion. I'd honestly think it'd be great on gate on gasoline because that's 9 pounds, but is what it is. But yeah, we are still seeing it's more residue than anything in the exhaust now from the oil. The boost controller's working phenomenally. The max is working exactly as it should. Everything's behaving finally. Still doesn't sound the greatest at idle. I don't know what it is about this thing. It might just be the nature of the bike. It's not missing though. It doesn't have a dead miss. Just kind of got a burble. It might just be the cams being as far out as they are because they are 110, 110, which is fairly high cam angle. You got to keep in mind this motor was originally built to be a methanol motor with a lot more boost than this. So it was meant to be intercooled methanol. I was going to try combining the two and a bunch of shit. But anyway, that's the big difference. When you move cam angles, you don't gain power so much. I mean, we are up on horsepower. We went from 393 to 404, but that's also because we have a little bit bigger cam on the exhaust side. The exhaust side now has an intake cam, and we have a little more compression. We're 1 point higher compression. So that's the real big difference. That's 20 pounds versus 20 pounds. The fueling was like 1 or 2%. It really wasn't that big of a difference. It was huge down low. But up top, it really wasn't a big difference. More or less, it was between like 5 and 7,000 is where it really changed. But that's because that's overlapped the cams. So yeah, that's the point I wanted to cover. Cams, cam angles. Cam angles move power. The problem is you can get below the efficiency of the engine. If you have your cam angles too low, you can lose a lot of peak power because it really wants to make the power up top, such as a big head. So this thing is freaking phenomenal. It's saying soprano right up there right now. And keep in mind these numbers are 20 pounds of boost through a Shinko hookup on an 80-inch long bike. I think it's 81 actually. So not bad at all. I'm going to go ahead and head out for the rest of the day. It is New Year's Eve. I'm going to go do a year in review video after I post this, and we will come back tomorrow with Motorhead and sit down and iron this entire bike out. Later, guys. Thanks for a great 2023.